Fantastic. Thank you very much for the introduction. I had a habit of walking around, so apologies in advance. That's why I'm using the roving mic. Thank you very much, HQN, for inviting me back. John reminded me earlier on that this time last year I wasn't stood here in a jacket because it was so hot. The rails had bent and a lot of you couldn't make it, but thank you for coming as well, and thanks, Alistair, for a bit of flexibility on the agenda. Much appreciated. So I'm going to take the next half an hour, perhaps a bit less. We'll do it as quickly as we can and get through to some questions, because I think that's probably where the fun starts. Sabrina and Michael, two that stuck out for me. Thank you to all of the CEOs, but those two both mentioned the importance of data, which I thought was really interesting. Hope I'm not swaying any voting. I'm sure you've done it all by now anyway. But that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the power and the ability of data, and if we use that data correctly and interpret it and turn it into information, then we can turn that information into decisions, and that's what we're all here for. The regulator also talked about data as well, specifically the importance of the tenant voice and about resident engagement. And I don't know, is Angela still here? But I would urge the reading of actually a previous Resident Voice Index report, page 8, please, on loneliness, because I would certainly support that to be part of the standards. Okay, this is me, this is very boring, but it is my privilege to head up this project called the Resident Voice Index, which I'm here to tell you about today. The Resident Voice Index is a series of surveys, insights, publications that provide RPs, regulators, ombudsmen, decision makers, policy makers, local and national, anybody that cares to digest and consume this information to improve the lives of social housing residents. That's the goal of the project, full stop. We do this by these insights and publications that explain the perceptions specifically. Much more, we're challenging here the conventional satisfaction measures and things. We don't go down those routes. You guys are doing that anyway, and we're not challenging that. What we are doing, though, is trying to augment it with more of these perceptions and feelings, challenging those sort of satisfaction measures on a different level, and focus very much on the qualitative research. So not just numbers. There's plenty of numbers. I come from a numbers background. I'm a bit of a numbers nerd, but you will see quite a lot of this sort of feelings and perception stuff in this research, which I think is so powerful in explaining the needs of social housing residents in the UK. Of course, respecting the residents' voice at all times. And it's MRI Software is the organisation I work for, and they sponsor this research, although it's important to point out that this is a non-commercial project. It's something that we like to give back to the sector. It's our vision to enter new territory. We don't know of anybody else who's doing this. It's completely unique. We are in the lucky position to have teams of software experts that can help me with the BI, the business intelligence, the graphical representation of these data, although I would say that today I'm not showing you that, but I'll come on to that in a little bit. I'm going to be using some more conventional methods because we are at the very early stages at the moment. We do have access to residents through the Home Swapper app, amongst many other, but a lot of you are probably aware of the Home Swapper app. And through that app, we have access to about 250,000 UK social housing residents at any time who are looking to mutually exchange their homes. This means that we can approach them for their views, and that's one of the ways that we gain access. We also gain access through the help of our partners on this project, people that are associated with these projects, notably HQN, who help us very much with both the provider and the resident networks in order to be able to run our focus groups and get that really important hands-on stuff to be able to talk to the residents directly. The NHF supports the project by advertising it through its Together with Tenants programme, and also HACT, who help us out sometimes with have helped us extensively in the past with the format of the surveys and how we might need to answer the questions. For those of you who've heard me before, these may not be these may not be news to you, but it is important that you understand the cornerstones of this project, especially if you haven't heard it before. And the reason that I'm sort of hammering these home a bit is because we need these cornerstones in order to be able to achieve our goals. Firstly, all of the surveys are short, brevity. On average, it never takes anyone more than 5 minutes to complete one of these surveys. And part of why I'm standing here today is to ask you, to ask your residents to become part of this bigger picture. And it's important that you understand that on average, the surveys never take more than 5 minutes. They are always short. They are also always anonymous. The results of this survey are never underlined, they never identify either the resident or the landlord. We're looking at big picture stuff here across the UK, and we're not in the game of naming and shaming. We're looking for positive ways to improve the lives of social housing residents. We're not looking at pointing any fingers. So everything is always anonymous. This also means that people can be really, really honest with their feedback, because they know that there's never going to be any recourse following their filling in of a survey. We are independent as a company. We're not paid for by anybody to do this. So we do what the sector needs, we do what the sector wants, we listen to organisations, we listen to residents, and on that basis we construct these surveys, not because someone who's paying us says that they would like us to ask residents these questions. That's a very, very important point. The last point is the transparency aspect of it, and that's that we promise as part of this to publish these results, warts and all. Sometimes that's difficult, sometimes it's distressing. And some of the results that we've seen as part of these surveys, which you saw on that previous slide there, and I would urge you to go and get some hard copies of those. Some of them are available out there. All of them are available as PDFs on the website. Some of the stuff in there is quite distressing, but if we're going to be transparent, if we're going to make a difference, we have to be honest, and that means being transparent. We've done 4 surveys so far, and the first one of those looked at aspects of safety, community belonging, caring, things like that. The second one looked at life after lockdown. We were looking at resilience and loneliness that I mentioned just a moment ago. The third one was around the cost of living crisis, and then the cost of living crisis got worse, so we ran a 4th one on cost of living as well. The 5th one, which is currently live now, and this is where I need your help in order to get the survey numbers up even higher, is on flooring and furniture, floor coverings. We have about 4,400 now responses, and it's looking at the statistics, feelings, experiences and perceptions of residents around the flooring and furniture that was in their home at the point of let. This is a potentially contentious issue, of course, and we're all aware that this has made the news. But part of the project ethos is really to look for the positives, and if we can find out what those are, this research becomes that much more useful throughout the sector for us to share and for us to use those positives to improve things. So we need to understand that and share this best practice. So that's why I'm here today, to talk to you about a sneak preview of this data. And I'm going to underline the word sneak there as well, because this is still live. Whilst I was sat halfway at the back there, I'm looking at the results and they're still coming in. And I need a lot more. The more results that we can get into this project, the more we can be of use, because the more we can split the data up. This is one for the data nerds out there. It's just me then. That when you get more data, you can carve it up in more ways and still trust the subsets. Do you understand? I was speaking to somebody earlier. You know, if I've got 2 18 to 24-year-olds in Oldham, I can't really tell you what's going on with 18 to 24-year-olds in Oldham, right? Because there's only 2 people. But if I've got 200 or even more than that, then we can start to carve the data up and data up in different ways, not just regional and age, but lots of other ways as well. And that enables us to really get even more insights into it. So today, the BI comes from a very well-known survey engine, collecting engine, and we're not presenting this in the way that we would normally present it because the survey has not completed yet, so we haven't done the business intelligence on this. So we're just looking at raw data. This is a bit of a sneak preview. You're the first people in the world outside the project team to see this. The first question we asked was your home equipped with floor coverings when you moved in? e.g. carpets, lino or tiles, etc. 4,278 people answered this. That's what the N is over there. Another one for the data, that's another one for me. But 24% of them are saying that yes, it was equipped with fuel coverings, and 29% and 47% added together, for those of you who are good at maths, you'll see that they did not. So that's the first question that we asked. Were the floor coverings there? Then what we did is branched the survey into those that answered yes and those that did not answer yes. And then we asked the feelings of the people who answered yes. So how did you feel about that? You had floor coverings in your house. How did you feel about that? There's a word cloud on the right there. It will get presented a lot nicer than this, I promise. Certain well-known survey collection engines don't have the analytical tools that we would like them to, but that's all we have for now. We've excluded here the word flooring and carpets because clearly they're going to be in everybody's answer and they would just dominate. The word cloud, for those of you who don't know, the bigger the word, the more prevalent it is. And clearly, for those who answered yes, there's a higher prevalence of positive words like good and happy and okay. There's also lots of other themes that came out of this, like, I was really relieved, this was a great weight off my mind. Clearly some setting of expectations could have been done a bit better there because they didn't know whether they were going to be there or not. There's lots of references to things like the cost of the carpet, and I'll be reporting on that in more depth later, and cleaning of what was there. So once again, remember, these are the people who said yes. There's a lot of commentary around mutual exchange, maybe because of where we get a lot of our respondents from, but also in this case, a lot of it was comparing what they'd left behind compared with what they were going to. And clearly there's no single standard across different providers, so that might be the reason for that. Some people indicated a desire to replace. So yes, it had it, but I would rather have replaced it anyway. And that contrasts, of course, with those who, quite a lot said, well, something's better than nothing. I was very pleased to have something, which was great, and then as time went by, maybe I could do something about it. There's lots of reference to the gifting of floor coverings from the provider, and that is a topic that we're going to have to handle sensitively for sure. But it's something that, as part of the Project Cornerstones, we will be looking into and trying to understand it a little bit more. Lots of references also to the fact that flooring makes a house a home, and there's been a few comments today around exactly that topic, the house becoming a home. Flooring is a big part of that for those people who said yes. And some of the quotations, these fit back to those categories. It was all new and clean and made me feel happy. That's going to go on the front of the report, fantastic. Relieved because I had nothing, so to see it there was a relief. Relieved and lucky as it meant it was less of a financial struggle to move in quick. Okay, but I would like to put down my own floor covering. Happy at least something was on the floor. I was told it couldn't be repaired by the Housing Association because that was how it was gifted to me. A huge relief and more like a home. So that's what the people who did have floor coverings said. Sorry. These now say yes, but that should say a no at the top there. My apologies, that says a no. I'll make sure that's corrected when the slides get published. So on the other hand, these are the people who did not have floor covering. Clearly there's a higher prevalence of negative words. You can see on the word cloud there that it looks different to the previous one. Much more around debt and cleaning. Much more disparity on what was moved away from compared with what they were moving to. Indications of stress, anxiousness, despair. I wouldn't want used carpets anyway, so that was quite an interesting one. So I didn't have carpets, but then I wouldn't have wanted them used, so I was actually happy. A lot of people indicated they would have liked the choice though. And that's something that we'll be exploring more when we write this report. Taking the shine off a happy occasion was mentioned a lot of times, and it didn't feel like a home. And also instances of it affecting their community integration. And again, in the same vein, those who did not say yes, sorry, beg your pardon, those who did not say yes to having floor coverings at the point of the, and here again it gets slightly more distressing. I cried, it was dirty and dusty, it was awful, I still can't afford them 6 years later. Yeah, I felt inadequate as a parent, not being able to keep my children that little bit warmer. Here's this one about what you left behind as opposed to what you actually moved to. So they felt that they weren't getting the quality with the new what they'd moved away from to where they'd gone. Would have been nice to have the choice. My heart sank into my shoes on moving in. Indications of feeling overwhelmed. So then, for those that did have floor coverings, we're currently asking, were they new? And 24% of them, that's 994 people answered this because they were the yeses from above. They answered their yes, and 69% of them did not have new floor coverings. So then we said, well, which rooms? For those who answered no. So you didn't have floor coverings. Which rooms did you not have floor coverings in? And nearly 90% of them indicated, out of the 3,000 people when I took these results, like I said, it's still growing, and hopefully with your help will grow even more. Nearly 90% of those said that the bedrooms specifically did not have. So we'll be doing some more analysis on this. Thanks to some of our partners here and some advice we got from End Furniture Poverty, would you have wanted the landlord to leave the previous tenant's floor coverings? And actually 45% of the people who did not have floor coverings at the point of let said yes, they would have liked whatever was there before to have been left. And I know the problems behind that, and those are some of the things that the report is going to try to, once we've got all of these data finished up, to try to understand. We know this is contentious. We know it's difficult to fix. These are just the stats though, and I promised you transparency. Interestingly, 20% of people didn't mind either way. Their views are probably worth exploring further too. Do those rooms have floor coverings now? So for the people who didn't have floor coverings at the point of let, have you got them now? 80% of the 3,000 people, when I took these data out, this sample data, because as I said, it's still growing, now have those floor coverings. So what we did is we're investigating how much they cost. Under £100 was only 1% of people, 2% from 100 to 200, 3% from 200 to, sorry, from 1 to 200 was 2%, from 2 to 300 is 3%. 1, 2, 3, that's quite confusing, isn't it? Or maybe serendipitous. 6% of people are spending between 300 and 400 quid, 9% between 400 and 500. 31% are spending between 500 and £1,000 on fuel coverings just after they move in. And over £1,000 was nearly half of the people. So this is the additional cost when they don't have floor coverings. And then we're asking, how are they paid for? 71% are taking the money out of savings or saving up for it from their own money. 1% from the landlord. 27% of people are taking out a loan to pay for these floor coverings. 14% funded by family or friends, and 3% are able to get a grant. So they've answered yes to now having them, but they didn't have them at the point of let, and this is where they're getting the money from to pay for those. For those that either saved up or took a loan, we're asking, well, how long do you think it's going to take you either to save that money or to pay back that loan? And you can see here that the mode is between 1 and 2 years, but this is a nice bell-shaped curve, so we've got our categories about right on this one. But you can see what we got there, 55, 65, 70% there in the middle of the curve. That's just over 1,000 people there, so we can trust those results pretty well. We're asking, did the lack of floor coverings or furniture, there's a subsequent part to the survey which I'm not going to really be reporting on today on furniture, but did that impact their ability to integrate into the community? 56% of respondents are saying that it did have some impact. And then we've asked for a few words about how they would describe their landlord's policy on furniture and floor coverings at the point of let. 3,600 people, when we took these data, are saying generally quite positive things, actually. There'll be some better analysis of this in good time around word frequency and association of words. So when you use one word, do you use another word as well? Which gives you a much better insight than just the single word options. But you can see that actually, once you exclude words like tenant, house, property, furniture, floorings, carpets and flooring, which you know is what it's all about, so you can safely exclude those words, you're left broadly with positive words, which I think is a good thing. Okay, Alistair talked about some trends within the project, and we often try to do this. In the previous survey, which came out at the end of last year, we asked, compared with 6 months ago, is your financial situation better, the same, or worse? So we're moving away from the floor covering stuff here. This is about the trend through different surveys. So from when I was stood here last time, we're looking at trends. Now, back in October 2022, when we published this, when we were finishing collecting and publishing this, 69% of respondents declared that they were worse off. And I remember, Alistair, you quoted that, and were quite shocked about that at the time. They were worse off than they were just 6 months ago, towards the beginning of the cost of living crisis, but nevertheless still in it. That was even higher for those with financial dependence, and only 7% of people at that time were able to say that they were better off than they were in the previous 6 months. Whilst you're taking the photo there, this is old data, okay? I'm about to now show you what we're seeing, so that's the negative one. Luckily, we've gone a little bit more positive now. Now, the data are not presented in the same way because I'm having to extract this out of a tool which isn't ours. But now, in July 2023, with RVI5, when we ask exactly the same question, that 69% is now only 49. Now, whether that's acceptable or not I'm here to present the data. Whether that's acceptable or not is up to personal decision, preference, or whatever, but it appears, some might say, can you go any lower than the lowest? When you're really at rock bottom, is there anywhere else to go? Maybe that's the reason for this, but 49% of people compare with 69 previously. So I think we have some grounds for optimism here, albeit tentatively. Previously, 24% of people were about the same, and now that's jumped up to 41. So we are seeing some plateauing here of the bite of the cost of living crisis. And instead of the 7% who could declare that they were better off, now that has risen very slightly to 10, although I would be careful with interpreting that last statistic because the difference between 7 and 10 is not massive, right? So we try to focus on the positives. Hopefully there's a little one there. And here's another one, because I think one of the things that I've noticed in the preliminary analysis of these data is that floor covering does have the ability to change lives. This is a fantastic quote, which I really expect to be using. It was amazing, as the flooring in the living room and the hallway was beautiful wooden floor, as well as the bathroom and the kitchen had new and preserved tiling. This made the flat beautiful and modern, and we all love it. And relax.